Hello everyone, this is Arespi and welcome back to another devlog update for this week. For those that haven't been following the previous videos, I am developing a game that is temporarily called Parasite's Island. The main concept of the game is that you are playing as a parasite that takes humans as hosts, wherein if your host dies, you die as well, and transferring to another host kills your previous one. In this game, your host has washed up into an isolated island inhabited only by a few humans. Your task is to keep the human population on the island enough to secure potential hosts from the next generations of inhabitants. You need to survive for as many generations as possible by preventing any harm to the inhabitants and making sure that their needs are provided. In the last devlog, I have basically just re-implemented old features that I need to temporarily scrap. I also talked about how I wanted to work on a Minecraft-like schedule system for the inhabitants of the island. In this devlog, I could now work on new features. So that is where I started off this week. To implement the schedule system, I first need to create a time. In this game, I wanted the time to be in increments of an hour. So, I created a clock script that would increment the hour of the game every 5 seconds. I output the hour on the screen using a simple text UI. Now that the clock is implemented, I can start the schedule system. The way I did this is that I started out by creating a simple schedule for the inhabitants to follow. A schedule consists of multiple activities, and each activity contains a starting hour, ending hour, and an area where the inhabitants would be placed at these hours. The schedule that I made for now is composed of 3 activities: home, wander, and work. The home activity starts at hour 0 and ends at hour 7. The area assigned to the home activity is on the top left area of the map. The wander activity starts at hour 8 and ends at hour 15. The area assigned to the wander activity is the entire map. The work activity starts at hour 16 and ends at hour 24. The area assigned to the work activity is at the bottom right of the map. Now that that works, I've gone and implemented a different home for different families and different workstations for different inhabitants. I also implemented different schedules for each family role. The inhabitants are colored according to their family role to see if each role follow their schedule. Red is for the breadwinner, yellow is for the household manager, and blue is for the kid. So, this is the current schedule that I did for a breadwinner. Unfortunately, after building the game, an error occurs that makes the game act differently. And after debugging for some time, I found out that the error is caused by my implementation of the schedule system. Even as I started implementing the schedule system, I am not sure if I wanted to keep it. And now that it is causing errors, I intended to scrap it. Here is the current state of the game after removing the schedule system. I've spent most of my time this week implementing the schedule system, debugging and finding what hinders it to run properly, then completely removing it after all. The only change I have successfully done for this week is the clock. To compensate with the lack of updates this week, I will share my plans for the next following weeks. To start off, I actually got a comment on my last video, which inspired me to change the schedule system of the game. I was suggested to check out the game called The Dawn of Men. In the game, you could assign different NPC to do a particular job. This could actually fit Parasite's Island. Ordering different inhabitants to do a particular job could affect the survival of the entire island. But in Parasite's Island, the player is not a god that could see everything and can control anyone. Instead, the player could only control the parasite and its host. So, what I am thinking is instead of ordering any inhabitants to do a particular job, the player would be limited into whom they can control based on who they have infected. This brings me to my planned respect system. Each inhabitant has a different inhabitant that they respect. If an inhabitant respects a particular inhabitant, it could order them around. So, this would make the host transfer mechanics a little bit more interesting because the player would need to think more of who they should infect. If the player infected a less respected inhabitant, then they would have a harder time to order people around, which would force the player into doing everything on their own. On the other hand, if the player infected an inhabitant that is well respected by every inhabitant, then the player could easily order people around and do a lot of things. This game mechanic would need balancing at a later time, but for now I wanted to implement it first. I am planning to implement this starting next week. Hopefully the next devlog would have a lot more changes to the game unlike this one. So that is all for this week. If you have any feedback regarding the game or these devlog videos, please comment them down. If you want to follow the development of this game outside of this devlog series, you could follow the game in its Game Jolt page, or you could follow the development on Twitter at Arespi Games. I usually post short updates daily on those platforms. I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Take care.